welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild landscape of Scotland. And for today's adventure, I'm basically carrying on where I left in the last video. I was down looking at an old folly from this old Victorian Scottish estate, Bar estate. And the reason I wanted to go to the folly, one of my viewers actually said it had fallen away and it was no longer there. So I went back and confirmed that it is actually still there. But this little estate here was like basically shut down and bought by a bigger nearby estate called Dalhousie. But originally this was Bar estate, and there was an Bar castle over at the far side. We documented the location of that in the last video. But look at this, here's even a clue here at the side of the path that there's been an old estate here, now lost to the forest. I believe the gamekeepers of Dalhousie now obviously use this land, and that's why it's fenced off. But just check it out, eh? The mossy steps leading up in there. I'm hopefully away to try and find the track that takes me down through this madness, because there's actually the old estate chapel hidden down within this jungle, and that's basically what I'm hoping to document today on this video. So this old abandoned estate is just an absolute paradise to explore, folks, with so many little nooks and crannies and historical wonders hidden all over the place. In the last video I was calling it a post-apocalyptic Hogwarts, because that's almost the vibe you get in a place like this. It's like mysterious and ancient, and yeah, it's wild as well. The amount of nature, the amount of animals. And literally a couple of minutes ago, 2 rabbits ran right in front of me, like so close, and I got the fright of my life because they just came out of nowhere, right over my boots pretty much. And it's no like rabbits to normally be that tame and come that close to a human. Yeah, a lot of these old trees here will have been planted on the original estate when it was in its prime. Sometimes these old Scottish estates in the Victorian period had a lot of rare, unusual plants and flowers and shrubs from all over the world. It was almost sometimes like a competition between the gardens of these estates to get the rarest and the coolest of plants, and sometimes they would source their plants from all over the world. People would go around and get the seeds. You often see some incredible massive trees and things from that era still standing in the land. Yeah, it's hard to tell, that almost looks built, but it's actually the bedrock seam in the land here. It's all sandstone bedrock, and I believe down in this kind of den area, it's a real steep hollow here. That's where the old chapel is located, and it's a perfect location today because we're down out of that wind. There's a bit of a breeze. So here we are, folks, as we round this corner here in the land, we're now greeted with this ancient Victorian historical wonder right here, and it looks like there's been some maintenance done. Maybe these trees and stuff had blown down in the recent storms. All this is built right here with the similar architecture that we saw in the last video with the Bar Folly. This is the place, the religious area on the estate, where the family of the estate would have come probably once a week at least on the Sunday, but then also for their funerals and stuff. Maybe even weddings, they would have had it at their own private chapel here. And look at this, eh? The way that all this sediment and silt's built up. This is almost like eroded away. And it looks super deep there at the corner. Wow, it's mad visiting places like this years after you first saw them, because they can often change so much. Even in our short lives, like exploring, it's amazing how these places change. So it just shows how grand it must have originally looked hundreds of years ago. If 10 years can destroy it so much, those 100 years is just crazy. That is the utter scene of paradise right there, folks. I know I say it a lot in my videos, but I'm often just blown away by the areas that I find myself in. I forget how incredible these places are. Look how this root here has actually been busting that apart. Look at the gap under that stone. It just shows how quick an arch like this could actually fall down and be forgotten. It's almost like as this tree here has blown over, the roots here have proper been ripping away at this. Look at this. Wow, look, there's an old bit of a bottle here, folks, or a vase. Look at that. It's been there so long that that's actually grown through it. It was down in the gap. Look at that ancient bit of kit, folks. Maybe at one time there was flowers on one of these graves. I'll put it back where it was. We've documented that incredible piece of history. Wow, it just shows when you come to these places, you never know what you're going to see. And then as you can see, there's just a few graves in this location. Sometimes, like the prime of these estates when they were on the go, it wasn't actually that long. They had a good 100 years or so in the 1800s when they built grand things like this, and then by the time the mid 1900s came, the money was gone out of these estates and they just fell to the wayside. And then even like the castles and stuff is now fully gone and destroyed. And the one here at Bar was actually destroyed by the military because it was obviously so well constructed that the common man would struggle to demolish such an item. Anyway, let's go and take a look at this. It's an incredible piece of Scottish history here, just forgotten in this den. Now the habitat of nature and wildlife. Let's take a look inside, folks, and see what we can see. Obviously, if anybody's exploring it, do not advise them to follow in my footsteps at any point. I'm wanting to come in and document this. Wow, look at the details even of this here, folks. And look at those big beams. Wow, each year I keep thinking that roof is just a way to come down at any minute. But yet here it is, it stands strong. It's proper, just leaning there and hanging. Just think about the grandeur of this. Maybe the sing-song, the happy times or the sad that was spent in here from the families of Bar estate over the years. They maybe had their own minister kind of boy or whatever that came down and kind of did the ceremonies and stuff for them. And then one day it was just abandoned, and slowly but surely the weather's just taken its toll. Probably one slate came off originally, and then two. And then as the time progressed and passed, the whole roof just comes down. I can actually see incredible woodwork under the slates there. The woodwork has just been absolutely amazing. Yeah, all these back massive wooden joists are actually bolted together, which is an interesting detail. But it's just that sort of detail with the carved stone that I love to see. And there's actually an interesting little bit down here. Look at this, folks. Never come in here because it is super dangerous, but look at that. Look at that pattern and that detail, almost like a Scotland flag. And I'm not sure if there would have been a candle or something else in here, maybe holy water or something like that. And look at this door. The hinges are similar to the gate that we saw in the last video at the Folly. And you have to imagine the same people would have been standing in here who were actually in that old Folly from the last video. This is the sort of place you have to be careful, because if you stood on some of this ivy, it can actually pull down on the roof. And pulling down on the roof is the last thing you want to be doing in a place like this. Yeah, even these slates above my head are just hanging. Looks like somebody's been digging here, maybe to see if there was a stone floor underneath. And then look at the end wall, folks, you can see the cutouts. Yeah, so I just wonder if it's had coloured glass or fancy glass, or I wonder how these windows originally looked. It's like there's been a small window at the top with great detail as well. Anyway, let's head on out of this beautiful scene. Real adventures on the channel once again, folks. This is what I promise you, the coolest of content and the fun adventures to get there. Just look at this old door hinges. 1853 it must be, folks, because there's the 5-3. And then look at this. PC, which is the Patrick Chalmers. And I believe that's the gentleman here of the estate. And that'll be the same names that's here on the gravestones of the estate. And then this must have been the little private access way. The old stairs used to come down the hill behind, and the walkway went right around behind this structure. And it's amazing to see how much earth and debris built up just from the years that's passed. Look, this is the way they would have probably walked. They maybe had other routes that carried on past the little chapel. And look how this is even growing. This is what I say, it's post-apocalyptic Hogwarts, folks. It's so cool I can bring places like this to you on the videos and share it with people all over the world. And I'm so lucky I can explore things like this before they're gone forever and forgotten. And a couple of generations before us built some of the most incredible structures out of stone with the most detailed of masonry. Look how well preserved this back wall is. More plain in detail because it would have been less seen. Look at this, folks. When things like this were built, it's like a time when Britain had so much pride in its construction, its manufacture, and its businesses, and its global economics. Incredible companies and just different times back then, folks. See now, it's just all gone. This is a scar and skeleton of the British Empire. Now if we build something, it's just some cheap materials bought in that'll probably last 10 years and then rot away. Back at this time, things were built to last forever, or to last as long as they possibly could. These buildings that were built for these families lasted longer than the families themselves. It became so expensive to maintain and upkeep these estates. Look how this tree grows, but yet there's the secondary ivy tree growing around it even. And you can see how this whole back section's been built strong with the stones to protect the foundation of this from getting washed away. And then just think where the stone stairs lead away up there. And here's another one of these rarer kind of trees. Anyway, folks, let's take a look at this little grave here. There is a few graves over at this side, and we'll just take a look at each of these graves as we walk around. Before we leave, somebody here has cleared some of the moss, and look, you can see 1841. And it looks like the sea there, potentially of Chalmers, because I believe the Chalmers family was the family who obviously had Aldbar estate back in the day. Look, this one here is sadly fallen down forward. Obviously, because it's an abandoned area, a lot of this stuff will never be lifted up and maintained ever again. Even this stone here looks like it's leaning so far back. And then look at this. It's got almost like a Celtic pattern on it right there. Wow, that angle right there, folks. Yeah, so I just love the way that this gravestone here is carved. Look at that detail. And look how the moss just covers stuff like that up. Wow, even these little patterns have got individual details within them. To carve such an incredible wonder. It's almost a skill that's gone now. Nobody wants to pay for this level of workmanship. The time it would take. Just think how difficult it would be to carve through these holes here. I wonder if an estate like this had its own stonemason that they regularly used for a lot of their stuff. Because even this gravestone here has a similar stone carving kind of look to the other buildings as well. I wonder if the same gentleman carved the buildings that carved the gravestones. It's an interesting theory, folks. And then look at this, 1854 it says here under the moss. It's quite hard to see, but there's the 1, the 8, the 5 and the 4. And this grave here has probably got the most character out of all these graves. The way the moss is just taken over, it's just crazy, folks. Here's another grave with character, folks. Looks like it says Mary Jane Ingalls. It's hard to read because it's so mossy. And died 77 years, I think that says. Or yeah, it's hard to read. I'm not really wanting to scrape the moss off because sometimes the moss protects that for the future generations to see. The moss stops the frost from chipping away at the paint. The stone, I mean to say, folks, sorry. Look at that there. the way that's carved and the detail. I need to get a photograph of this as well. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that I love to see, folks, and the character of it. I keep saying the character of things, but it is true. The way that nature takes over, the grey stone gets covered from the green natural wonders of planet Earth. Plants and trees and moss, they just take back over. And moss seems to grip to the other stones a lot better than it does here to this marble. Or is that granite actually? It's polished granite, I think. But here we go, look. Patrick Chalmers. It's hard to even read until I get the light in it. 1872 here. 1805. Yeah, it's super difficult to read. And look at this one here, look. 1872 on the back it's written. Yeah, this is a strange little one here. And then we've got this other one as well. This one's had a grand chain surrounding it, which is also almost gone into the ground. Look at that emblem there, folks. I wonder if that was some sort of crest or symbol. Maybe a company logo or whatever. Look at the way that chain is. I've seen this at other old graveyards from the 1800s as well. As you can see now, the springtime snowdrops are starting to pass. They're a sorry state of their original glory. Maybe I should have been down here a month ago or whatever when all this was white with snowdrops. And it looks like they've obviously had a bigger area here planned out for a bigger grave site as the years progressed. But then that's not the way history panned out, folks, and this was the only graves in this grave site. Just look at the grandeur of this construction once more, folks, before we head up the hill. So there you go, folks, it's a true abandoned paradise here, nestled in this little den area. And it's just been such a fun adventure to share this with people all over the world. Some countries aren't even as old as like a building like this. Scotland's got so much nuggets from all times in history, just hidden, just forgotten. And it is good that the estate has kind of left this building here and they've no done anything to damage it. I believe they do maintain it to a certain degree, probably keeping the worst of the trees and shrubs from doing damage to the building. But I think at one time there was actually a big cast iron gate here at this opening, and then also under the arch at the far side there was also the big cast iron gate, which now obviously is away. But it's cool on these videos to document how the buildings stand today, and then if things do fall down or fall off like that roof in the future, you can see on these videos how it looked, how the grandeur of the construction was. Each side of this den's super interesting because it's proper big sandstone cliffs almost, and you can see it again even here. It's the sandstone bedrock with like the pebbles through it, like we see all over this Angus area of Scotland. Right folks, I'm going to end this video here. Thanks once again for joining me in another Scottish paradise, and we've documented another piece of incredible history from the 1800s, almost gone and forgotten, almost lost to nature and time. Anyway, if you want to see where I go next, folks, tune in again soon. Thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.